in times of disempowerment, in times of heightened trauma, in times of really kind of profound phases of suppression, I was either diagnosed with something new or in relapse every time.
Hello and welcome to Revolutionary Woman. My name is Tess Silverman. Women around the world are constantly creating ways to make a difference in their communities, and today's guest is no exception. Sara Hirsh Bordo is a 15-time award-winning filmmaker and founder and CEO of Women Rising, named one of the most innovative, interesting, and purpose-driven women-led startups to watch by Inc. magazine. She's currently directing short documentary films for Toyota and ESPN Women, and most recently executive producer of Connect Her International Film Festival, Autoimmunity and the Good Girls, How Permission to Put Ourselves First Has the Power to Keep Us Well is her first book. Hi, Sara. Welcome to Revolutionary Woman. How are you today?
Hi, Tess. It's so nice to be back in conversation with you.
Same here. Same here. The last time you were a guest on my show was in 2024. And then we talked about your origins, growing up in a huge Texan and Lebanese family, how you founded Women Rising in 2013, and also started the very first TEDx Women Austin, as well as creating documentary films such as A Brave Heart, the Lizzie Velasquez story in 2015, and Protect Her in 2017, which was aimed at protecting girls on campus by actively generating conversations with the school's male athletes. So you're here today because you have a new book, Autoimmunity and the Good Girls, which was a research study. Can you tell me what this book is about and what prompted you to create it?
I commissioned the first research at the intersection of female empowerment and autoimmunity in American women at the end of 2023.
Oh, okay.
Which was such a gift of how we first met.
Yeah.
And
yes.
Since then, I have been, in essence, evolving the data into a literary documentary.
Wow.
And what I mean by that is, I've been telling stories of women and girls and creating experiences for women and girls, for about 15 years. And what I saw in the research was this really honoring echo to what I had experienced personally as a girl, as well as what I had seen in both focus groups that I had held amongst other autoimmune diagnosed women, as well as an online survey that I did for 300 women. But I knew that as a documentary filmmaker, and very much honoring to stay in my lane, that I am not being a physician or a medical professional.
Right.
I knew that in order to, in essence, substantiate this hunch that I had around why we might be getting sick, I funded the research amongst 1,000 American women. And those findings sort of bolstered my confidence to take the work further.
Right.
On August the 8th, I was very humbled and we received 8 offers for what is now my book.
Wow.
And
That's
that
amazing.
book, thank you, very, very, very beautiful. And we're in such a powerful time of other female patients sort of turned activists or creatives in whatever, form or fashion their gifts lie. We're in this very beautiful time of, there are a big handful of us that are out here published, talking about our books, coming from the place that we feel that we can be in most service to others. And it's just a really, really exciting time.
That's amazing. The CDC defines autoimmunity as the immune system attacking itself because it isn't able to distinguish between good and bad cells. It was a good distinction for me since I didn't know anyone who had an autoimmune disease before a friend of mine and my daughter. So when and how did that manifest for you?
I was very ill in my late 20s after I had a series of health events began to unfold. Some that made sense, some that didn't make sense. Within a year and a half of being sexually assaulted, right after I had moved to Los Angeles, and that was at the age of 28.
Wow.
And so around 30, 31, everything just started to change in my body, and symptoms began to come to the fore, and I was dismissed as many, many, many female patients have been in the past. I was tired. I was prescribed a vacation. I was lethargic. I was, prescribed more sleep. I was gaining weight. I was prescribed a different diet. All of these elements that in some bodies would make sense. But for me, there were a lot of elements that were happening under what was just being presented. And I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, which is an underactive thyroid disease, which is a part of the autoimmune family. And just for some of our listeners out there, and hello to everybody, autoimmunity is absolutely, as you shared, which I write in the book about, it is a crisis in our immune system that materializes in a host of different diagnoses and diseases, over about 140 on record as of late. None of them have a cure. All of them are being managed to the best that anyone diagnosed can.
Yeah.
And the reason why I believe it's the climate crisis of women's health is that 80% of all autoimmune diagnoses are happening in a female body. When you have these numbers and and this is just how many women are diagnosed. It took me, and I've heard this story across many women with all different diagnoses in the autoimmune community. It takes us, and it can take us, anywhere between 2 and 5 or 6 different doctor's visits in order to get properly diagnosed.
Yes. Yeah. Holy cow. That's crazy. That's really crazy. There were 2 moments in your book that stood out to me, and I wanted to ask you about them. The first one was when you were 8 years old, and the other one was when you were married to Jonas. Can you share how those moments affected you and changed the way you took charge of your life and health?
Well, it's hard to take control as an 8-year-old.
Yes.
But what I will share is that when I was very, very ill at the right around the age of 42, and I was diagnosed with relapse of Hashimoto's, many new diagnoses, and I very much felt that my body was collapsing under dis-ease and a host of symptoms.
Right.
I began to look throughout my life as a woman and looked to find echoes between moments where I had either experienced trauma or was living in a state of heightened self-compromise, self-neglect, or self-abandonment.
Wow.
And if you were raised how I was, and my research echoed what I had seen privately, which was all of the women that were around me that were being diagnosed with an autoimmune disease were either the eldest or the only daughter in their family. The research that I did amongst 1,000 women, which is called Autoimmunity and the Good Girls, and your viewers are very, very welcome to download a free copy of those key findings on my website. But my research amongst 1,000 American women proved out that 63% of this community was either the eldest or the only daughter. But I wanted to sort of dig a little bit deeper, because the elements that affect kind of this eldest and only daughter archetype of girl and woman is not just for the birth order conversation. I interviewed many, many, many women and girls, and what I saw was it was this element of being raised to be the girlhood caretaker, which was as potent a factor as the birth order, if not more in some cases. And what I mean by caretaker is that you were raised and trained to detach from your own needs and wants to prioritize the needs and wants of a family or a family member or the whole. You felt that you needed to be dutiful.
Yeah.
And that's where your value lied, which when we are raised to feel loved for being dutiful, loved for being, quote, good, loved for being quiet and selfless, we, in essence, are tying our entire value of selfhood to the perception of us from the outside, instead of building our sense of self to a place where we can then engage with the world. And the reason I bring this forward is in my conversations with a handful of women who were raised as the youngest daughter, or conversely, a middle child who had a lot of freedom to feel not pressured to carry the weight and the emotional weight of other people. They were just allowed to be little. They were allowed to be girls. They were allowed to get messy and make choices and be concerned about themselves. That community of, I'll say, kind of lucky young girls, in the handful that I interviewed, all of them are living as women, in essence, perfect health.
Wow.
So to come back to what happened to me at 8, I was molested at a friend's house. I had been, before the age of 8, from about the age of 3.5, raised very much as a good girl who was absolutely counted upon to have my own back and to be quite self-sufficient, as well as to support the needs of my family, because I had twin brothers who were born when I was 3.5, and that was a lot for my parents to manage. And before 3.5, I remember feeling very different about who I was and my relationship in my family. And then after 3.5, and then this circumstance that happened to me at 8, really, really cemented that I had really lost any sovereignty over my voice. I had no idea how to speak up about what had happened to me. I had no idea how to put into words that I felt unsafe, or why I was shaking at the dinner table, or why I oftentimes felt that everything was a bit too loud and too overstimulating. And I believe that and many of us have had childhood trauma, big T or little t, that have in essence either cemented a character that we believe we're here to play, or suppress our needs, wants, voice even further because we don't want to be seen as being too much trouble.
Wow.
A very short amount of time after I was molested at 8, I was diagnosed with shingles as an 8-year-old, which is hyper, 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 hyper rare. Even at the doctor or with my mom, I still wasn't able to say what had happened to me. The shingles presented on the top left of my little girl thigh, just a couple of inches away from what had happened to me. And I very much began to map that experience at 8 years old and the subsequent diagnosis of being unwell or diagnosed with something new,
Right.
as almost this echo that I began to study across the timeline of my health. And sure enough, I very much began to see that in times of disempowerment, in times of heightened trauma, in times of really kind of profound phases of suppression, I was either diagnosed with something new or in relapse every time, from 8 years old to 42. And it was that echo and insight that began to catalyze me to really focus on this work in hopes of helping other women. Because if I could be reprogrammed from a little Sarah that knew who she was into a sense of Sarah that had no idea who she was, then maybe it was possible for me to reprogram back. And the work I've done have helped me walk myself back to a healthy self now with no active diagnoses at all.
That's amazing, Sarah. Oh my gosh. You mentioned before, and in your book, you wrote about being a master of self-compromise and self-betrayal. For me, that spoke, for me, because I remember I was actually molested when I was 12, but I couldn't tell anyone, and here I am, like you were talking about middle child. I'm the middle child, and my oldest sister was just, had her own thing going on, and she was, for me, the quintessential caretaker, so I was like, okay. And nobody was really paying attention to me. But because of that, I rebelled because I wanted the attention. Okay, so I would do crazy things. But then when this happened, I'm like, oh my goodness, did it happen because I caused it? After that, almost every relationship that I was in, it kind of reminded me like, well, okay, this happened because of what I did or what I caused. That was my interpretation. And I guess for me, it was my self-compromise, because I just thought, okay, it must have been something that I did. I must have caused this. And I'm listening to you and I'm like, holy cow, it's so wild how much pressure for you as a little girl to put all of that into yourself because you wanted to keep being the good girl and you keep wanting to and self-compromising and self-betrayal. Goodness, for an 8-year-old or even for a 12-year-old, that's huge.
That's right.
That's huge. And and then you realize as an adult, it's like, oh wow, okay, that's why this keeps, like this is why I could never. For me, it didn't seem like I was ever going to have the kind of relationship that I wanted until I broke free of that myself. When I started talking to someone, I told my daughter about your book. I don't know internally how she is because she doesn't voice a lot of her internal things going on with me. But now I'm looking and I'm like, holy cow, I hope I'm not doing anything, that would make her feel that way. But it was really such an enlightening book because it really made me go back into myself.
Thank you so much for trusting me and your community to hold that experience and that memory with you. I am so sorry for what happened to you.
Thank you.
And I'm honored that you would share the book with your beautiful girl. And it's been interesting, the journey to bring the book forward, because as now you've read it, it's got all of me in it. And I didn't write this for me. I'm a very happy introvert who likes to be behind a camera or behind the stage, coming out to tell my story in hopes of supporting other women, is the only reason why I'm doing this. And I hope so much that, and I believe so much that we are in a time where everything from our mother's generation aging to us reclaiming parts of ourselves as we have become more empowered, to the Me Too era, to the social media confessional era. I mean, never before in the history of womankind has there been a time where so many of us are speaking our life. And it is an honor and deeply intimidating to be in this space. But I really genuinely believe in what I have written and have assembled a team of experts from across modality who are all in agreement with the thesis here. And it's just a very humbling but hopeful time, I feel, that we can awaken to new levels of ourself. And if my book did that for you in any way, I am very grateful that you shared that. So
oh my gosh. Sarah, it's such a powerful book. It really is. I have so many notes that I took on every chapter. I was just like, oh my gosh. Okay, she said this, and that's it. And then this expert said that. Oh
I've heard this from a couple other people. People are actually sending me like notes tabs on their phone and Word docs from their laptop of copy and pasted or like typed out notes. It's like, it's really, it's very moving. Thank you.
So as we were talking about, you have this section about remothering, remothering yourself. I remember, I love my mom and she's still my mother, but I did not grow up feeling that from her. And, so now when you're talking about ancestral connections and all of that. It's like, I did not feel that. Although then I wonder if she never felt it from her mother. It's just a generational thing. Right. And it's like, but then I broke the mold because I am so into my daughter. I think it's the other way. Yes. And sometimes she'll be like, okay, Ma, it's okay. And it's like, but it was just mind-boggling to me, the concepts that you wrote about. It's like, oh, wow, I can relate to so much of it, even though I was not.
Oh, good.
I am not an eldest daughter or an only daughter. But, when I think about how my connection to my mother is unfortunately not as cohesive as I'd like it to be, now I see that, who knows what she went through? I don't know.
That's right.
And I can't fault her for being who she is when she probably didn't know how to love me.
I was asked a question the other day, and at first it was a little bit of, it took me aback a little bit because it was such a sharp question, and it was about why did I choose to forgive my mom?
Oh, yeah.
And I think for me, laddering to the grace that you just shared, is that if we had all been raised perfectly, I don't know what world that is.
True.
And I believe that not being a biological mom, I don't pretend to be one. I'm a creative mom who births ideas and experiences for women. But compassion was always in the room for me when I began to, in essence, find a deeper level of acceptance for my mom. It wasn't about feeling victimized.
Right. Yeah.
It was about, do I believe that my mom and dad were doing absolutely the best they could with the tools they had at every given moment? Yes. Yes, I do. Do I believe that, they knew how to raise 3 children under the age of 4. No, I mean, it's just, do I believe that as ancestrally as we move forward, that we are also invited and allowed to go backwards, to bring forward the elements and the beautiful gifts of our foremothers? And do I believe that we are here to help heal ourselves so that it heals them backwards? Yes. And I think that in the remothering section, when I started to think about how to frame the book and the journey of the book, not only of the journey that I had walked myself, but that throughout the history of time, women have been transforming. We are not supposed to stay the same.
Right.
We are supposed to evolve. We are supposed to shed the skin of the stories we were given, take the ones that feel true to us, shed the ones that don't, and begin to write our own. And if that's a premise that you believe, then the book is going to meet you exactly there. Right. If you feel that you haven't given yourself the permission to leave old stories behind, because in some way you feel that it's your duty or your burden to carry them forward, I invite you to be empowered with the opposite. I do not believe that we are supposed to hold identities, characters, truths that are not authentic. I believe that if we are living in a body with an immune system that cannot recognize its own healthy cells from its unhealthy ones, then I believe very much in the whole premise of the book is that a self in compromise is creating immunity in compromise. And I found that authenticity and rewiring who I was and the kind of mothering that I needed and giving it to myself and teaching myself to be able to self-soothe and forgive and move forward and to really step into the truth that Sara is now at as of 2 weeks ago, 50-year-old woman, then we all can. So I believe that it holds an invitation and one permission slip after the next. And I hope that, Tess, that's how you felt when you were reading it.
Oh my gosh, very much so. And I don't want to bypass, so happy birthday. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. And I'm just blown away by the amount of research that you've done, along with all the experts that you have spoken to. I love the stories of the women who have been diagnosed with at least one autoimmune disease. It was so raw and so honest. Why do you think it's taken for so many women to be sick before they can break away from being, quote unquote, good girls?
I think if we had the answer to that, then we would create an entirely new paradigm of selfhood and wellness. I wanted to offer a potential contributing factor, and a thought process that was really well supported, because I know how many people are going to feel that someone with my background has no business writing this book. But so I wanted to support the shit out of it. I mean, I commissioned my own research amongst 1,000 American women. I've done over 60 hours of expert interviews. I have hundreds and hundreds of citations from other authors, scientists, physicians, institutions. And so that no matter where you were coming from, that there was something in here that would be at a vibration that feels right for you to hear. Why do I believe it takes pain
Yeah.
for women to give themselves permission. I will say that women who don't have an innate sense of self-permission require a lot more triggers from the outside than women that feel very connected to the birthright that is their sovereignty, period.
Okay. Yeah.
Why do women have difficulty leaving painful relationships?
Yes, true. Yeah.
So in a world where women are stepping deeper and deeper into their own empowerment and into their own permission and reclamation, I think that is where I hope the book invites women to be operating from. But very, very few of us were raised there.
Yeah.
But some were. Some were raised there. And I believe that, as Dr. Gabor Mate writes about, it's always the, quote, nice people that ended up in his office.
Huh. Yes.
And I think that if you were raised to be nice and you were raised to be good and you were raised to prioritize acceptance from the outside instead of authenticity from the inside, then you are built and wired for a system of power that happens outside of you.
Yeah.
And I think that I know I was there. I was living there just I had real estate there. I had diagnoses there. I had decades there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then I gave myself the permission to rewire my own empowerment, and it's saved my life.
Oh, I love that. Wow. It struck me too that you have created this book as a guide and for so many women who are still going through it. And I love the stories that you shared of the women in the book, because so many of them didn't realize that they could question. It's a lot of conditioning, that we had been conditioned so much for so long that we didn't know how to break out of that conditioning until we said, all right, enough's enough. I'm done. I need to do something else. For me, I towards the end, I was really smiling towards the end of your book, because I loved what you listed with the sensory lists. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I started looking up, like when the whole thing about the tasting and the smelling and the hearing. I'm like, the hearing part I loved, because I was like looking up videos already. I was just like, this is so cool. How has writing this book changed you?
Oh gosh, I feel like that's a whole episode. I was having a very emotional conversation yesterday with kind of a spiritual guide of mine, because I'm having very mixed emotions about next week. So we're recording this, obviously, just a few days before the book comes out. By the time that women are hearing this, the book has already come out. And so hopefully I'll be on the other side of this kind of ache. I don't think I've ever loved creating anything more in my life. I loved it. So there's a part of me that's sad that she's just not mine anymore. But I didn't write her for me. I wrote her for other people and other women and loved ones. And I'm excited to see what the spirit of her can do. I feel very grateful for this experience and for a very big publisher in HarperCollins taking a risk on someone who at the time had less than 3,000 Instagram followers with a worldwide deal, and I think that if there's one thing I would just love to ignite and to reassure, we're not designed to stay the same. We are designed to change and to evolve and to fly in new ways. And I think that this book has given me a sense of healing
Mm-hmm.
and closure
Mm.
to maybe elements and experiences that had happened in my life that I was holding a little differently.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm holding them all as tools for you.
Mm.
I'm not holding them as wounds for me.
Right.
And the relief of that is profound, but there is also grief that comes with that evolution.
Yeah.
And so I'm just trying to be really tender with myself because it's very vulnerable. You know, it's got all of me in there.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's like sitting with a interview subject for a film or, work for ESPN or Toyota or,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter who's on the other side in front of me, but I always go first in an interview. I
Mm-hmm.
always give something before I ask for an answer from someone else.
Mm.
And I hope and pray that this is very much me going first
Yeah.
and that a reader knows that I haven't encouraged them or invited them to do anything that I
Mm.
haven't already done myself.
Yeah.
And I was very careful about that.
Yeah.
Anything that I was going to bring forward,
Mm-hmm.
I damn sure wanted to show and tell the reader first before I
Yeah.
asked her or them
Right.
to do anything on their own.
I think you did. You have brought that out. You really have shown us, readers, listeners, who Sara is from when she was 8 years old and prior to who you are now. I have to tell you, a section of the book about the butterfly, that is you, and really is this whole thing is such a huge culmination of who Sara is now, and I loved that whole symbolism of what you wrote about the butterfly, because it's we start off as like being this little thing, and then you're not sure which way to go, and then external forces are like trying to influence who you are, and then internal influences are trying to influence who you are. So it's like it's a back and forth until of course at the end you're like, this is who I am authentically. I loved your book. It's just so illuminating and so encouraging and so empowering. It speaks to, at least for me, some of the things I have gone through, and like a part of it made me laugh when you were talking about your mom planning your wedding. I was just like, oh, it's such a book full of life. You talk about life and death in there too.
Yes.
But at the end, you're reborn. In your book, you talk about that too. And I love that because it is a rebirth of who you should have been in the first place.
Thank you so much for all of that. I'm just sitting here. I'm trying to receive it without shutting it down. I am here. My little girl and I say thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, you are so welcome. If anyone wanted to know more about you and your book, how would they go about finding it,
blessings.
purchasing it?
Well, it is now available wherever books are sold, wherever audiobooks are sold. I read my own audiobook.
That's amazing.
And
I love that.
I loved doing it. It was not easy, but I loved it. And so I would love for women to find whatever format that fits their life more comfortably.
Okay.
You can learn more about me and the book at goodgirlsbook.com.
Wonderful. Okay. So I know this would be a long list, but if you had to think one or two people, who would it be?
Okay, I would say that, I think the first person I'm going to thank is my mom, because she's still here and she's still with me and she's still with us. And she showed so much grace and humility and bravery when she first read the book. I would also like to thank Dr. Richard Carmona, who is our former U.S. Surgeon General, who wrote the foreword for my book, but also now for 6 years has been this champion of this theory of mine, and kind of has just always been waiting in the wings for me to need him, and has said yes every single time. I will never be able to pay that forward enough, but I will try. And then I think the third person I will thank is for any woman listening who maybe doesn't feel like this book is for her, but says yes anyway. Because I think that it's very easy for women who were raised not to have needs to say yes to something that might give them a gift back.
Right.
And the reason that I also am donating a percentage of my personal proceeds to the Society for Women's Health Research is because I'm giving a percentage of proceeds for every sale of every book. And if you're someone who feels like it's hard for me to do something unless it's doing something for someone else, I beat you to the punch. And I am now saying you can do something for you and you can give back in a way by securing a copy for yourself. And I hope it holds your hand, and I can't wait to hear what you think.
Okay. So 2 of the quotes that really spoke to me is, she needed to be a healer, so a healer she became. And you are the artist of your own empowered identity. It is you. It must be you. And this book just is all about that. I am so thankful that you said yes again to be on my show. I'm so excited for you and for this book. And my last question for you is, if you could go back in time, what advice would you give that 8-year-old back then?
I probably wouldn't give her any advice. I would probably just sit with her and keep her company.
Okay.
And then I think we would probably have a conversation in a way that allowed her to probably speak feelings for the first time, whatever they were.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Sara, holy moly. I can't thank you enough for writing this book and for being on my show and really giving me a different perspective of how I should be living in my own authenticity, because I don't think I've ever really looked into that for me, like really, really, really looked into it. And you said that you had, you had a whole page of resources and like the sensory list, and I got excited. I'm like, okay, what can I do first? I was just like so excited. I'm like, and I really, this book really spoke to me, even though I don't have an autoimmune disease, but parts of me were really relating to your story. So I loved it. And thank you again.
Thank you so much, Tess.
Oh my gosh.
You've made my day.
Oh.
You've absolutely made my day. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Well, good luck with this book. And I can't wait to hear all about where this book is going to land, in people's hands. And hopefully they'll get their aha moment when they read. I am so blessed to know you through your book. And I just wish you so much success with this. Thank you. And with that, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, Tess. I'm really grateful for your support. Thank you.
Oh, same here. Take it easy.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
You too, Tess. Bye.
That's our show for today. I've posted more information about Sara Hirsh Bordo on RevWoman.com. Thank you for listening, and I hope you'll tune in every other Thursday for another episode of Revolutionary Woman. You can listen to Revolutionary Woman on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast. Just a little note. I've launched a Patreon account to support the show. All proceeds will go to producing and editing the episodes to give my poor husband a break from being my personal IT and production department. He wrote this. The address is patreon.com/revwoman.